Hey guys, welcome to the Prosta English podcast. As many of my listeners say, this podcast helps them boost their listening skills, learn new words, and in general, gives them hope that one day they will also speak English confidently and fluently. So, if you are new here and your goal is to improve your language skills, you are in the right place. Follow the podcast so you can listen to the previous episodes later on, and of course, keep up with the new ones. Our topic today is procrastination. I believe this word and the feeling behind it is familiar to all of you. We will talk about the reasons why people procrastinate and come up with some solutions to help overcome and stop it. But first, let's define what it is. According to ChatGPT, procrastination is when you know you should do something, but you put it off and instead choose an activity that is easier, more enjoyable, and less stressful. For example, you need to write an essay, but every time you think about it, you tell yourself, tomorrow, I will do it tomorrow. Or you want to apply for a new job, but every time you open your computer, you suddenly remember to do something else. Clean the room, call a friend, or cook dinner. Or you want to start going to the gym to slim down. But every time you plan to go and buy a membership, something happens. You get sick, you get tired, you decide to read articles about which sport is best for your health, or you say, I need to order a new uniform first, buy sneakers and a sports bag, and then I will go to the gym. In the end, you spend months choosing your uniform and as the result, put off going to the gym. These are all the examples of procrastination. And what's interesting is that each of them has a different reason behind it. For example, why might a person delay writing an essay? One reason can be the fear of starting. You know you need to write something, you think about it, and you have no idea where to begin. You keep putting it off, waiting for inspiration or for the muse to visit you. The second reason can be perfectionism. You love when everything is perfect, when the text is well structured, insightful, and flawless, but you are afraid to start because you think your writing will not meet your high standards. And when a person wants to apply for a new job but doesn't do it, the reasons for procrastination might be slightly different. For example, there can be a fear of rejection. When someone is afraid to send out CVs and get either no response or a negative one. Another reason is that the whole task of applying for a new job might feel difficult and overwhelming. We all know that nowadays it's pretty tough to find a new job and the process is far from easy. You need to create a perfect CV that represents all your skills, knowledge, and experience. You have to write a motivation letter and attach it to your CV. You need to search for vacancies that match your idea of an ideal job. Wait for replies from recruiters and go through job interviews, which in some companies might include 3 to 5 stages. So, yeah, it's a lot of work. And all those steps can feel scary and put us under pressure. That's why we often try to avoid this discomfort by doing something more pleasant and easier instead. Watching YouTube, scrolling through social media, or cleaning the room. Yeah, in this case, even cleaning can sound more appealing than applying for a job. And when we want to start a workout routine, but we keep putting it off, the reasons can also be different. For example, we might unconsciously know that it will take time to see results, whether it's losing weight, gaining muscles, or fixing a back problem. That's why instead of going to the gym and buying a membership, we choose activities that give us instant results. For example, scrolling through reels of people exercising or showing their before and after transformations. Another reason is that we know that starting a workout routine will feel more uncomfortable at first. We will need time to get used to exercising, and in the beginning, our muscles will sore. Naturally, we keep delaying that first gym visit because in our mind, it's not a big deal whether we start today or tomorrow, even if tomorrow never actually comes. So, one more time to sum up, why do we procrastinate? First, tasks can feel boring and overwhelming, and our brain tries to avoid that discomfort by choosing something more pleasant instead. Second, sometimes we delay starting because we want to do it perfectly and we are afraid of messing it up. Third, if a task feels huge and unclear, our brain freezes and simply ignores it. And fourth, if a task requires a lot of time and effort before we see the results we want, we are more likely to put it off. And the problem is that the longer we put off an activity, the more stressful the situation becomes. I remember when I had to write my bachelor's thesis, I kept putting it off week after week. I didn't know where to start, and the task felt both boring and overwhelming. And in the end, when I had only 1 month left before my defense, I couldn't delay any longer, and I finally convinced myself to sit down and start writing. Of course, I succeeded in the end, defended my thesis, and got my diploma, but that last month was extremely stressful. I had to work day and night to finish on time. I couldn't sleep or eat properly, and I knew I could have written a much better paper if I had just started earlier. So, for me personally, the biggest problem with procrastination is that while we keep putting things off, we still keep thinking about them. And it's not like you forget and then remember at the last minute. No, you keep thinking about the task for days, weeks, or even months, and it drains your energy. And by the time you actually start working on it, you're already exhausted with low energy and little inspiration. Of course, if we lived in an ideal world, I would say we should just pull ourselves together and stop procrastinating. But in reality, I know we will keep doing it anyway for the reasons I mentioned earlier. What we can do, though, is come up with solutions that will help us reduce how often we procrastinate and weaken our addiction to it. So, let's list some recommendations that will help you control procrastination, not the other way around. Point number one, and this is something that really helps me personally, is to choose a specific day to complete a task and make sure you have no other tasks on your list for that day. Let me explain exactly what I mean. One of the tasks I recently wanted to complete was updating my website. I'd had the same design for about 2.5, maybe 3 years, and I was just tired of it. And on top of that, I wanted to change the course descriptions because I noticed that after reading the information on my website, people still asked the same questions. For context, I plan to start working on the website at the beginning of summer. Did I do it? No. Why? Because the task felt too overwhelming. I needed to find a design I liked, decide on colors, find a designer, give them a clear brief, rewrite all the text on the site, collect feedback from students who had completed the courses, and so on and so forth. And week after week, I looked at that task, felt stressed, and put it off. And here is how it happened. I would wake up in the morning with 10 small tasks on my list, plus the task to update my website. And my brain would trick me. Let's do the easier tasks first. We will finish them quickly and then we will start working on the website. But of course, by the time I finished all the less important tasks, I was already exhausted and I would tell myself, okay, I will think about it tomorrow. And tomorrow, the same story. As the result, I only started working on my website at the beginning of August, when people were already booking places for courses starting in September. And now I'm writing the same information to multiple people when I could have simply sent them an updated website and saved so much time. So, my recommendation is this: if you have a big, tough task that you keep delaying, dedicate an entire day to do it and keep your to do list empty except for that task. The second piece of advice I have is to break a huge task into small steps. When I finally started working on my website, the first thing I did was write down a list of everything I needed to do. And once I had the plan in front of me, I started going step by step, crossing each activity off as I finished it. This way, I tricked my brain into thinking that the task was easier than it really was. Plus, every time I completed a step, I felt satisfied and proud of myself, which boosted my mood and motivated me to keep going. Point number 3 is the 5-minute rule. Sometimes even recording this podcast feels like a difficult task. I might spend days thinking about the next episode, and in those moments, I find myself just waiting for inspiration, waiting for the perfect idea that will be interesting both to me and to you. Sometimes the idea really does appear out of nowhere. After an exciting event in my life, after watching a thought provoking movie, or after having an insightful conversation with my friends. But other times, the muse doesn't show up. And that's when I use the 5-minute rule. I tell myself, okay, I will sit down for just 5 minutes. And during that time, I will try to write down as many potential ideas as I can. If nothing comes to my mind, I will stop and come back to it another day. And what happens most of the time? I spend those 5 minutes brainstorming, I get involved, I start thinking, and then I stay for another 5 minutes, and then another and another. And before I know it, I'm so absorbed that I forget I was supposed to stop. Sometimes the hardest part is simply starting. But if we trick our brain into starting, the productive process often takes care of itself. Recommendation number 4 is to prepare in advance. If you want to go to the gym regularly, but every time you need to pack your bag, you suddenly find a million reasons not to go, my advice is do it the day before. Pack your bag with your workout clothes, a bottle of water, sneakers, a lock, and a towel ahead of time. This way, you will not give your brain extra opportunities to come up with excuses before training. Speaking of the gym, something that really helps me personally is having a beautiful workout outfit. I love colorful training outfits and I actually want to wear them because I like how I look in them. Recently, Paul bought me a new sports bag and it adds even more pleasure to my gym experience. I still haven't bought a new reusable water bottle, but I'm sure it will be another small thing that brings me joy. My piece of advice number 5 is to surround yourself with like-minded people. For example, I noticed that it was difficult for me to stay consistent with reading books in English. But one day, I joined an English book club, and in the last 4 months, I've read 4 books. And that's when I realized why reading alone was so hard for me and why it became so easy once I was a part of a community. First of all, I hate searching for books. I can spend hours looking and still find nothing that feels right. In the club, we are simply given a book. I've been following the English teacher who runs the club for 3 years on Instagram, and I trust her taste. I do not have to choose and I do not have to search. She just sends the file, I download it to my e reader, and I can start reading right away. Another big advantage is that I do not want to fall behind. When I see people in the chat talking about the books, sharing insights, or posting cool new words, I somehow find time to read, even on the busiest days. So surround yourself with people who inspire you, motivate you, and encourage you to keep moving forward. And you might not even notice how you shift from procrastination to action. And my final recommendation is to create an inspiring environment. I personally spend a lot of time at home, and sometimes I feel like I can't come up with any new ideas here. So I grab my laptop and I head to a cafe. I sit by the window, order a cup of coffee, turn off notifications, and put my phone in my bag. This way, I have no choice but to focus on my task. But you can create an inspiring environment even at home. Put on some focus friendly music, adjust the lighting to what feels best for you. Maybe it's a dark room with a floor lamp, or maybe it's a bright space with all the main lights on. Another thing that helps me is wearing the right outfit. I've noticed that when I try to do important tasks in pajamas, it doesn't work. I can't concentrate. I keep yawning and my brain feels sleepy. But when I put on nice but comfortable clothes, add a bit of makeup, and wear some nice jewelry, even if I'm staying home, my brain automatically changes into work mode. Try it. It might work the same way for you. So, guys, procrastination is something many people struggle with. You are not alone. But we also know that our brain can be a lazy ass. It tries to control us and avoid the tasks we must do, especially the complicated ones. But when that happens, we need to consciously recognize it and trick our brain into action. We can use the tips we talked about today. For example, break a tough task into micro steps. Work for just 5 minutes. Create a pleasant and inspiring environment. Prepare in advance. Reward yourself right after you finish. Surround yourself with productive, like minded people. Allow yourself a bad first draft and focus on the process, not perfection. Remember, procrastination is normal, but the more you practice these strategies, the more control you will have over it. And step by step, you will move from delay to action. And if you feel that you've been putting off learning English for too long, but you can't wait any longer because you're missing out on opportunities and that amazing feeling of freedom, I invite you to join the courses that start this September. We have everything you need to stop procrastinating on your English journey. All the materials are on the interactive platform, so you do not have to think about what to read, to listen to, or which grammar rule to study next. You simply open the platform and all your tasks are right there waiting for you. And on top of that, we have a highly inspiring and engaged community that will keep you motivated along the way. Our teachers will show you that it's absolutely fine to make mistakes because mistakes are part of the learning process. Just the more you speak and practice, the better and more confident you will sound. So far, we've helped over 980 students speak English confidently and fluently. Thanks to their improved English, our students now work for international companies, have been promoted, work with global clients, travel freely, take top courses in their fields, and read books and watch movies in English. So, no matter what your goal is, we will be glad to help you boost your English so you can use it as a tool to create a vibrant, successful, and exciting life. You can find the website link in the description of this episode. And yes, by the time you hear this, it will finally be ready. On the site, you will find all the information about our courses, feedback from our students, and if you have any questions, send me a message and I'll be happy to reply. Have a great day, guys. Be productive, but do not forget to relax. I'm sending you hugs from Gdańsk, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye bye, and see you in the courses.